We are taught that relationships shatter when the love runs out. But if you look closely, that's rarely the whole story. Many connections don't explode, they erode. They fall apart because one person treats the partnership like a battlefield. They need to win the argument. They need to win the silent treatment. They need to hold the power. They need the final word. In the beginning, this dynamic hides in plain sight. It feels like passion. It feels like standing your ground. Every minor disagreement turns into a debate where someone has to lose. Every apology feels like a surrender. Showing vulnerability feels like handing over a weapon. But human beings aren't built for endless warfare. Eventually a shift occurs. One person simply runs out of energy. They aren't furious. They aren't plotting revenge. They are just empty. They stop trying to prove their point. They stop tallying up who did more. They stop staring at the screen waiting for a text that will only bring more friction. Instead, they choose their own sanity. And that is the exact second the dynamic flips. The other person suddenly feels a completely foreign emotion, a void. Psychology has a term for this: habituation. When your brain is constantly exposed to a stimulus, like someone's endless effort, their reactions, their emotional availability, it stops registering it. It becomes background noise. You stop valuing it because it is guaranteed. But the second that background noise goes quiet, the brain panics. The absence becomes deafening. This is why walking away in silence hits harder than any screaming match. Picture a couple that spent months locked in a Cold War, keeping track of who initiated contact, measuring who invested more, refusing to be the first to say sorry. Then, without warning, one of them drops the rope, not as a manipulation tactic, not to teach a lesson, but because their soul is exhausted. Suddenly, the atmosphere in the room changes. The fighting stops, but the connection is gone too. The partner who loved the chase wakes up ready for another round, but there is no opponent. They look at their phone, no angry paragraphs, no passive-aggressive quotes, just silence. They start digging through old memories, trying to understand why this quiet feels so much heavier than the yelling ever did, because the game is over. And without the distraction of the game, they are forced to actually look at the human being they were trying to defeat. This realization hits harder than most people can handle. We get so blinded by the need to be right. We forget to value the person sitting across from us. Only when the dust settles do we realize the truth. We weren't fighting an enemy. We were alienating the only person who truly had our back. That is a brutal pill to swallow. Because suddenly, the past looks entirely different. The quiet mornings feel incredibly warm. The boring routine days feel like a luxury. Even the quirks that used to cause arguments become the exact things they ache for. Psychologists refer to this as the contrast effect. We are terrible at valuing what is stable. We only recognize its worth when the foundation is gone. But there is another side to this story that rarely gets told. The person who walked away from the competition undergoes a massive transformation. For the first time in months, their mind is quiet. They aren't analyzing every text message for hidden meanings. They aren't carrying the weight of the relationship alone. Their vitality comes back, and then the shift happens. Clarity replaces doubt. Stillness replaces panic. They finally accept that love is not a debate to be won. It is a sanctuary to be shared. Ironically, this newfound detachment makes them more magnetic than they ever were when they were trying so hard. The other person feels it, not because someone new entered the picture, but because the emotional puppet strings have been cut. The illusion is broken. Real life has taken over. Naturally, not all damage can be undone. Some bridges are burned completely. Some wake-up calls come years too late. But the core lesson of human psychology remains unchanged. People do not miss the constant validation. They miss the emotional shelter. They miss the freedom of being known without having to defend themselves. They miss the one person who made the chaos of life feel manageable. That is why true regret doesn't hit when the door closes, it hits a month later, when the routine continues, but the warmth that used to fill the space is permanently gone. If you find yourself constantly battling to prove your worth to someone, you need to ask yourself one vital question. Is this connection helping you heal, or is it just another arena to fight in? Because genuine love is never conquered. It is cultivated gently, consistently, by two people who drop their armor and decide to finally see each other. If this perspective shifted something inside, you drop a single word in the comments. Peace, and subscribe to Heart Whisper for more relationship psychology that cuts through the noise.